Episode number 29 of Making the Case. Simp culture versus manliness. Hey, you definitely not going to want to miss this one. Let's get into it. Hey, what up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Making the Case, episode number 29. Of course, we're almost through with season one. For those of you that have already subscribed, thank you. We definitely are looking to keep growing as a channel. So I appreciate those of you that subscribe, that's tuning in, because the topics have been phenomenal. Of course, for season two, we got more fire topics. So stay tuned. As I mentioned before, once we get up to a certain point, whether it's season two or season three, we're going to be going live. We're going to be bringing in guests, all that good stuff. All right. So let's keep on growing. All right. So episode number 29. And I have to shout out to one of my subscribers who gave me this topic idea. I don't think I was actually thinking along this line. So shout out to Josh Kozak. Hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. Please correct me in the comment if I'm not, because I definitely want to give credit to you, brother, for this topic. And I hope I do it justice. I think I got some good stuff and some good dialogue and conversation we're gonna have. So hopefully I'll make you proud. All right. Simp culture versus manliness. Okay. So before we get started, though, of course, my name is Dr. Jacob Isom, educator, author, speaker, entrepreneur, all that good stuff. We have two channel norms. One, we attack points and not people. And then two, we don't do all the cussing and the defamatory stuff. We leave that to other people to do. Hopefully that's cool with you. Because to be honest with you, I have a confession to make before we move forward. Let me get comfortable. All right. Do I want to get up here and act a plum fool? Absolutely I do. But I want to keep things respectful because I want to be able to articulate my points. So, because to be honest with you, people are already going to get offended. People are already going to get in their feelings. And if I'm cussing and acting a fool, that's going to make it worse. So I try to keep it as clean as possible so you can understand where I'm coming from. Okay. So I never explained that before, why I don't cuss and things of that nature, but that is my explanation if you was ever curious. Okay. So let's get into it without further ado, my opening statement. Now, so when we breaking down simp culture versus manliness. And of course, with my three pieces of evidence, we're going to break down what a simp is for those of you who may have been living under a rock, to be honest with you, because the whole idea of a simp has been around for a very long time and you might not have known it. Okay. Of course, you heard what manliness means or masculinity means, right? So I really don't have to delve into that a lot, but we still are, though. Okay, just so you know. So the whole idea of a simp culture and manliness, a lot of people, including myself. So the case I'm making is right now we're living in a simp culture with men. Okay, and I'm curious to hear what you think about it. So definitely comment on this video. We're living in a culture where, and I know women have even said this, right? Men are not men anymore. Men are not manning anymore, if that makes sense. A lot of time, men don't have the skills set. Men nowadays don't know how to change a tire. They don't know how to build things. Men nowadays are using filter just like women are, right? They're needy for female attention and things of that nature. They actually believe that they can be a woman's friend. Now, we'll get into that a little bit more because some people go be in their feelings about that. That's one thing that I definitely agree with Steve Harvey with, is that men and women can't be friends. I think I touched on this in a previous video, but we'll go into it a little bit more for sure. So this is a culture that's going on right now, right? Men that's trying to placate to women, because if you're a masculine man, you don't chase women, right? I got a video for you that's going to go into that a little bit more, but so real men operate in their lane. They have their purpose. They're driven, right? They don't have time to chase women. They attract women to them. Okay. And of course, with choosing signs, they shoot their shot, and most of the time they're successful because they're in the right spaces in order to be around certain quality women, right? Simps typically take what they can get because they have to, particularly when it comes to a beautiful woman, right? That they know they couldn't pull because simp will use their wallets, right, to splurge and spend on women. So they simps buy women affections. All right. You see that going on a lot. And now don't get it twisted to think just because a man is a millionaire or a billionaire and got a lot of money that he can't be a simp. A lot of times those are the biggest simps because they use their money, right? We've seen it all the time. We see very unattractive men with very beautiful women. What do you think that is? Now, I'm not saying that all these men are simp. What I'm saying is they definitely probably have some qualities of being a simp. I would tell you that. Okay. So what we're gonna do is in this episode, we're gonna break down what simp culture is versus being a masculine, manly man. All right. Manliness. All right. So we're gonna break down the differences in the two, and talk a little bit more about what we're seeing nowadays in our culture, because a lot of times people may assume that women like simps or want a simp, but that's just simply not true. All right. Women want a manly man, a masculine man, and they're only going to follow the lead of that man. They don't follow simps. Now, they might use simps. Once they see they can do whatever, get whatever, they're going to use you. All right. So without further ado, can we get into our first piece of evidence? All right, so let's get into it. So for my first piece of evidence, what we're going to do, we're going to address what masculinity is, okay? Now, so I found actually it's a blog, a platform called The Man Effect. Never heard of it, so definitely new to the channel. And simply is addressing what does it mean to be a man. But the title is, what is masculinity? That's a question every man should be asking himself, right? So one thing that I often say is that men define what masculinity is, right? So we know masculinity has a biological aspect and it has a social aspect. And some would say a physiological, right? If you want to throw in those different aspects, but definitely a biological aspect and a social aspect. All right. So that means some things are socially constructed that are placed on men as far as what we should be doing, such as paying for the first date, opening doors, chivalrous things, right? We understand that, right? But when it comes to being the protector and provider, that's more biological, being the leader, okay? Being that we have more strength, we're stronger than women. There are certain aspects that come with our nature and our job and our role that we must perform. And that's biological, right? So let's get into the argument and kind of see. I think they got a couple different definitions of what masculinity or manliness is. So let's get into it. And then, of course, in our next piece of evidence, we'll talk about them simps. All right. I'm sorry. I got way too excited for that. All right. So let's get into it. We're going to scroll down a little bit. If I can stop it. All right. All right, let's get into it. So the definition and foundation. Let's begin with the definition of the word masculinity. Here there are three different website definitions that are decent starting points. So one, qualities or attributes regarded as characteristics of a man. Handsome, muscle, driven. He's a prime example of masculinity. So that's a very basic definition. They're talking about the structure and the features of a man. That's very generic, right? Wikipedia definition, masculinity, also called manhood or manliness, is a set of attributes, behaviors, and roles associated with boys and men. As a social construct, it is distinct from the definition of the male biological sex. Standards of manliness or masculinity varies across different cultures and historical periods. Now, that is an important point to point out. So our idea of masculinity or manliness now will differ from 200 years ago, okay? Because they was expected to build their own homes, grow their own foods, right? So being a man then is totally different from being a man now. So we have to point that out and be aware of that, okay? So that's the reason why they're saying it's a social construct, right? Because it will change based off the time, based off what is necessary. Nowadays, we have modern technology that make things easier for men and women. All right. Let's see. Both males and females can exhibit masculine traits and behavior. This is true. Traits traditionally viewed as masculine in Western society include strength, courage, independence, leadership, and assertiveness, right? All things that women find attractive in a man and that they would consider masculine as well. Machismo is a form of masculinity that emphasizes power and is often associated with a disregard for consequences and responsibility. Virility is similar to masculinity, but especially emphasizes strength, energy, and the sex drive. So we know that men typically are known for having a higher sex drive, for being aggressive, and things of that nature. So that also get brought into being masculine. And for fun, lastly, I want to add the thoughts of Urban Dictionary. This is a top voted definition at the moment. The properties, characteristics of the male sex, the trait of behaving in a way considered typical for men. His masculinity is very obvious in the way he struts his stuff. Now that we have an agreeable Western definition of the word, I think it would be fun to dive into the etymology of the word. We're going to use the etymonline.com to do this. Here's the basic info. And if you want to dive deeper into the etymology, that is on you. So masculinity, quality of being masculine, right? Doesn't give us much, right? But when we dive a little deeper, belonging to the male grammatical gender of men of male sex. Let's see. Worthy of the man, a word unknown origin. The diminutive form might be a parent associated with feminist, meaning having the appropriate quality of the male sex, physically or mentally, manly, virile, powerful. Word form and element making abstract nouns from uses. I'm trying to see. All right. So far, I think the best definition is more so biological, right? Because we understand it from a social standpoint. But biologically, men are stronger, are more assertive, have a high sex drive, right? So masculinity are those in that form. So when you look at the opposite, you can either say a man is acting in his feminine or he's intentionally doing things which makes him a simp. Like I said, we're going to get into that in a little bit, so I won't go into it. Let's see, the discussion. Now, the pursuit of figuring out what it means to be masculine, manly, or just a man is not only a common thing, but is crucial to the solidification of someone who can weather the storms of life. Seeking out our purpose in life and how we fit into this organism of the positive influence our interpersonal fortitude and health. And I think one thing for us to point out also is that men are not known, or masculine men are not known for being in their feelings. I have a saying I used to tell my players, because I coached for almost 10 years, basketball and football, right? I used to tell my players, men have emotions, we just don't stay in them, right? Everybody, the human species is an emotional species, right? Male or female, right? Women operate more so in their emotions, right? And their decisions can be affected by that. But as men, we cannot allow decisions to be affected by our emotions because we're logical, we're rational, and we're leaders. As the leader, we got to make sure that our mindset is not clouded with our emotions, right? So that is the difference between being a masculine man. We're decisive, all right? Let's see. During the storms like this in my life, I recognize the value of my insatiable desire to ask questions that I may never find the answer to, and more. Yet, even the cruel or wrestling with questions like what is masculinity, I find that pressing into this discomfort in unknown realms, there is a positive long-term impact that I'm using not even be aware of as possibility. So, what is masculinity? Is a social construct. Is a trait only heterosexual men can embody. It is something you will ever be. Is something you will ever be able to understand and embody in your own life. Has a definition masculinity been shaped by only men in your life? But I digress. No, because women feel like they can actually tell us what a masculine man is, which they can't. Okay, that ideology belongs to men, right? But a woman can tell us what they would like to see in a man. That's another situation, right? But as far as addressing what a masculine man is, no, that's left up to men. Okay. Oh, let's see. Does masculinity hold any value? I think exploring this question is crucial for you and I. If it does or does not hold value to us, then we may want to mediate on that and find someone who can confidently articulate an opposing view. Your value of masculinity is going to be a strong source of energy on your quest to deeply analyze and learn, but also influence how you digest content. If you find it difficult to define how much value it holds in your life, maybe start to explore why you are motivated to read this article, even search the internet for answers. The self-audit and self-evaluation of your motives can reveal the value masculinity holds, which is, in my opinion, foundational. Does masculinity have social value to me? Does masculinity hold a core value to me? Let's see. Let's keep. What is a social construct? We won't get into that. Oh, let's see. I do want to read this. There's so much more important than necessity in you and I digging into a conversation rather than just looking for one's personal opinion or belief. You are here reading this article to assist yourself in formulating your own opinion on this topic and have found that asking a multitude of questions from different angles directed at this topic is one of the best ways to help others construct how masculinity is conceptualized. Think about it this way. Say I go to a good friend of mine and ask them, what is masculinity? When they respond, I intentionally choose to be considering their family upbringing, their culture they currently live in, their religious belief, or simply if a father figure in their life was good or bad role model to them. There are so many factors that influence every human belief on this topic, so it's imperative that you take into consideration that this is a more complex topic than simply stating masculinity is a man who demands respect and honor. Now, is that a bad statement? No. But does it fully define what the current Western civilization embodies to be a man? Hell no. Now, before I continue reading on, because I'm going to read a little bit more. Even though that is true what he said, yes, masculinity can be based on what culture you come from, how you grew up, etc., right? But there are, and that's why I'm coming at it from the biological standpoint, right? There are biological drives in us as men, regardless of where you are, what culture you come from, what time period you grew up in, that is innate. That is nature, right? That describe what a man is. Now, we could talk about the social construct all we want to, but what makes a man, drives a man is purpose, right? His leadership, his assertiveness, his ability to articulate himself, right? Okay? Him commanding a room, him be able to designate certain tasks and things of that nature. That's a masculine man, right? You can call it alpha, call it whatever you want. Okay. We're talking about attributes of what makes a man. And then we could talk about attributes of what makes a woman, but we're not talking about women in this video. We're talking about masculinity and what manliness means. All right. Oh, let's see. I do want to read this. The more that men endorse ideas of traditional Western masculinity, such as risk-taking dominance, primacy of work, and pursuit of status, the more likely they were to have personal courage, autonomy, endurance, and resilience in the face of hardship. When men confronted with ideas of masculinity defined by winning, emotional control, and self-reliance, it resulted in lower levels of courage, grit, self-control, autonomy, and resilience. Does that make you self-evaluate, assess the men around you? I hope so. Now, as we are in our own other thought process, I want to throw in this segment from, and we'll stop right there. He makes some good points in this article or this blog that, of course, masculinity and manliness can be defined in multiple different ways. There's so many different attributes and traits that makes up a man. But what I would say now in our current times, in this modernistic society that we living in, a lot of these traits that we've just talked about are very few in men or doesn't exist as it should be in men being the leaders of their household, right? And even that's multi-layered. But we're not seeing the assertiveness, the self-reliance, the emotional maturity on a large scale the way we should, which is affecting our dating pool, because that's why women are saying that it ain't no good men out there. What they're really saying is there aren't a lot of masculine men out there. That's what they're really saying. Okay? Which I would agree with. But that's the reason why you have this small pool of masculine men who are attracting a large pool of women. Okay? I don't want to digress though. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to address what a simp is. Okay? Let's get into our second piece of evidence. All right. So for the piece of evidence number 2, of simp culture versus manliness. We're going to be talking about simps. All right. We're going to be addressing what a simp is, kind of the characteristics of what a simp is. So let's get into it. All right. So we've already addressed masculinity, kind of what that means and what that is. So if it's going to be a versus, right, we got to know what a simp is in order to say we live in more so in the simp culture, which of course that is the case that I'm making. Okay. So let's get into it. So this actually is from a article from Men's Health. All right. So Men's Health is actually addressing simp culture, which I thought fascinating, right? But the title of it is Here's What It Means When Someone Calls You a Simp. Hopefully no one has called you a simp, particularly if it was a female, then you know you're in trouble. All right. So let's get into it. Its purpose is to insult dudes in a variety of contexts, and only some of them deserve the ridicule. I don't know. We'll see. Right. But yes, if you're being called a simp, it's not a friendly thing. It's not a positive thing. All right. So here we go. If you ever complimented a woman, apparently you're a simp. Now, it's not that simple. If you're constantly giving women compliment after compliment, like you can't stop telling them, oh my God, you're so beautiful. You're the most attractive one I ever seen. That's a simp. Okay. You can compliment somebody and that's fine. All right. It's when you go overboard. It's when you're just doing too much. All right. After the hashtag Simp Nation took over TikTok in 2020, this word sealed its place in online vernacular. Its purpose to insult dudes in a variety of contexts, and only some of them deserve the ridicule. So, what exactly is a simp? Let's see if we agree with this definition. Well, that depends on whom you ask. And while simp might seem like a new term, it's actually been around for over a century. Absolutely. So, the whole idea of happy wife, happy life, simp, men have been simping for a very long time. All right. Putting women needs above a man, simp, right? So what we have to really address is the fact that if the man is supposed to be the leader, why is somebody else needs becoming before the leader? That's what we really have to address. Okay. Now, the leader is always going to make sure everybody is comfortable and well taken care of. But it's the reason why daddy get the big piece of chicken. All right. So how you gonna have daddy getting the big piece of chicken and then happy wife, happy life? They don't match. Okay. Let me stop myself. Here we go. Let's keep reading. The new Patriot Dictionary of Slang and Unconventional English traces simp, a shortened version of simpleton, back to 1903. I bet you didn't know that, because guess what? I didn't either. So the idea of the word simp is shortened for simpleton. Well, I tell you, you learn something new every day. That's what this channel is for. All right. One prominent example comes from a 1923 New York Times article, which quoted a letter from a woman criticizing unmarried men. Those bachelor simps are afraid to take a chance and too tight to share their earnings with a wife. That's a sick burn, even by today's standard. So this woman is saying, you don't want to share your resources. You just want it all to yourself. No, he just don't want to he don't want to be a trick and spend all his money on you. All right. Which that is what we're seeing nowadays. All right. By the 1980s, rap artists like Hugh EMC, Too Short, and E40 were using simp to describe men who were overly sympathetic. I would think that would be one characteristic of a simp. Absolutely. In the early 2010s, the word made its way onto men's rights forums where butthurt bros insisted that feminism was turning men soft, aka turning men into simps. Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. All right. Simp is both a noun and a verb. To simp over or simp for someone is to engage in simp behavior. These days, the most common definition of the noun simp seems to be this: a man who throws money or attention at a woman in order to gain her affection, even when his tactics aren't working. That is a great definition. A man who throws money and attention at a woman to gain her affection, right? Because he feel like he doesn't have the personality, the swag, the style in order to gain that woman affection any other way. That's a simp. Okay. That is what we see a lot nowadays. All right. So when you see all these likes on these Instagram models and just regular women profile, simp. Okay? Like, who has time to be sitting up there scrolling and just liking women pictures? I know I don't. Okay? I'm not saying that you can't give beautiful women attention, right? It's the overuse. That's what we're talking about, right? But even then, masculine men, we don't chase women. We just don't. All right. Let's get into it. There's also a vocal contingent of misogynist internet users who believe simp is an acronym for suckers idolizing mediocrity P word. I'm not gonna say it, okay? But we're going to give those folks the attention they deserve, which is zero. And it's funny, I've never heard that acronym before. Suckers idolizing mediocre. That's funny. Okay. Never heard that before. I wonder if you have. What's with the sudden popularity of the word simp in recent years? That's unclear, but it seems that TikTok user at Polo Boy, who currently has 6.9 million followers, allowed the hashtag Simp Nation to pick up traction and spread. Now, hashtag Simp Nation have over 559.6 million views on TikTok. And while some users are jokingly referring to themselves and others as simps, when they're talking about having a crush or being a dotting partner, the word is often being used in a derogatory way. That taking care of your woman, taking care of your kids, spoiling your woman is not being a simp. If she's yours and she's loyal and she's doing everything she needs to do as a partner of a wife, you're supposed to take care of her. You're supposed to spoil her. That's not being a simp. A simp is when you're doing these behaviors and seeking this attention just to get her to like you, right? Just to get on your arm and say you got her, okay? Because there's a lot of men that are not used to having beautiful women on their arm. That's what makes them a simp. But unfortunately, that's what we see a lot, okay? Because a masculine man don't have to brag about the women he get, about the many women he sleep with. You wouldn't know. A masculine man is private. He don't put all his business out there on the street. All right, let's keep reading. As hashtag Simp Nation popularity skyrocketing 2020, YouTuber user at Sharon Official compiled the best simp TikToks according to the video in this compilation. You're considered a simp if you answer a FaceTime call from a woman. That's stupid. Don't believe that. Dress well to impress your crush. Well, you should be dressing well anyway. When I go to work, I wear suits. I'm not trying to impress nobody. I just look damn good in a suit. Okay? As a matter of fact, you should go to my website, rcdconsultancy.com, and you will see how fresh I am in a suit. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself, all right? Respond too quickly to text from women. There's a little truth in that, right? If you're just waiting by your phone saying, oh my gosh, I can't wait for yeah, that's some simp behavior. Reply to all your crushes, Instagram. First of all, how old are you having a crush, though? If you like her, go get her. And if she say no, move on, okay? Use your jacket to protect a woman from the rain. I wouldn't say if it start raining and my woman ain't got no jacket. But that's the thing. Is she your woman or is she just somebody that you're trying to impress? So, I mean, context matters, right? Hopefully, we can all agree that some of these behaviors, like answering a FaceTime call, are normal acts of kindness and respect. And it's clear that some TikTok creators are using simp to promote toxic masculinity by dunking on polite men who offer women their bare minimum. I do agree with that. Some of this stuff is being taken out of context and just going way overboard. So you definitely have that's going to be going on in the manosphere and the red pill community. That stuff goes on all the time. You remember your girlfriend's favorite movie? Apparently you're simpling. Now she's your girl. You should know if you've been spending time with her. You let your partner borrow your hoodie when they're cold. Welcome to Simp Nation. See, that stuff is ridiculous, right? Being kind to your crush or your partner should be standard, but apparently that's a faux pas in the eyes of online simp indicator that said, while it's important to be thoughtful and courteous, some of the simp behavior name in these TikTok videos can be creepy depending on the context. Let's see. What's the difference between being a nice guy and a presumptuous, clingy weirdo? If you really like someone to show interest in them and offer to help when they genuinely need it, but then also walk away told no and respect the boundaries of the future accordingly, you're showing kindness and interest in a non-creepy way, said Dr. Sanan Hafiz, Site D, emphasis on non-creepy. When you're being overbearing, replying to every single one of your crush Instagram story without receiving any response, or offering unwanted favors, using your jacket to protect your crush from the rain without asking for it, that's when your crush's creep alarm starts blaring, and for good reason. And one thing, like I said, if you got a crush, that That's weird to me in the first place. All right. Yeah, that's all I want to. So that is some kind of insight onto what a simp is, but I love the definition that they use. Simply, if you're trying to spend money and give attention to someone who essentially doesn't want it, or like you're really trying to shower with someone just to get them to like you, like that's simp 101 right there. And there's other behaviors that can be considered simpish, right? Such as trying to be a friend to a female to eventually that she'll start liking you and be your woman, right? That's simpish, right? So a lot of times it comes from men who are not used to getting certain quality type of women. So they'll use their money, they'll use, yes, baby, give you anything you want, tell you anything you want to hear type of men out there, who are the simps. And that is being dominated in our culture right now, right? Versus the man who's going to sit back. And the reason why we hear a lot of conversation about men who are simp is because they're more vocal, they're more likely to give you that attention. What a man is, he's on his purpose, right? He doing everything that's good for his brand. He's more private, right? Now, women are going to flock to that type of man, though, but you're just not going to know about it. Okay. So we define what manliness and masculinity is. We describe what being a simp is. So in my third piece of evidence, I got a video I want to show you. And I wonder if you're going to agree with his thought process when it comes to masculinity. Okay. So
respect simps. These women don't respect men that don't know their worth. They only respect men who know their worth. The men who are 10 toes down on what they say. The men who know what they want out of life. The men who are not a pushover. That's who the women want. The women don't want to deal with these simps. These women don't respect simps. These women don't respect men that don't know their worth. They only respect men who know their worth. The men who are 10 toes down on what they.
All right, so that was my third piece of evidence. I kind of wanted to wrap this video up with that video, because I think he's 100% correct in saying that women want masculine men. They don't want you simp dudes out there, okay? Women respect men who stand on their square, who have boundaries, standards, right? This is what it is, and this is what it's going to be, okay? And those men are not trying to be controlling. No. Just like you as the woman have certain things that you're going to put up with and you're not going to do, that man does too. But see, what a simp would do is a simp would just take anything and everything just so he could be next to that woman he wants. That's the difference. The masculine man understands that he has options and he's not going to settle. See, a simp will settle for that beautiful woman, even though it's a lot of things he don't like about that beautiful woman. The fact that she's promiscuous, right? But he don't know if he's gonna be able to get another gorgeous woman like that, so he'll put up with a lot of things. All right. That's the difference. And in our culture, what you're seeing right now is you're seeing the fact that we have one standard of men, and then we have another standard of men. Now, the masculine man, yes, he is getting attention. And yes, he can have multiple women or just one woman, right? But what you're seeing is you're seeing men out there who are willing to pay, who are willing to go overboard, right? And so women are getting with those type of men, but then they don't want them, so they get in short-term situations with those type of men, right? And then complain about those men, all right? And then the manly man will get in short-term situations with that women with that mentality. And so now you're just creating a cycle of short-term dating, okay? Because the woman don't want the simp long-term, and the masculine man don't want that woman long. This is why you see a whole bunch of short-term dating going on out here. It's very, very difficult to be in a long-term situation that leads to marriage or just a long-term situation. It's difficult nowadays. It's very difficult. Okay. But if you ask me, which one is kind of outdueling the other? Is it the masculine, manly man? Or is it the simp? I think the simps are kind of winning right now because the simps are getting attention for one reason and the masculine man are getting attention for a different reason. Now, will it change? It will only change unless women denounce it. That's the only way it's going to change. Women have to speak more so about how they don't like simps. But the thing is, women getting way too many benefits. They're getting vacations and trips paid for and car notes and rent by these simps. So it's probably not going to stop. And as I said, yeah, you rich dudes out here, you can be simps too. Trust on that. So there you have it. We're talking about simp culture versus manliness. Okay. Hopefully, Josh, I did it justice. Appreciate you, brother. If anybody else have a topic you want me to make the case on, please put it in the comments. As a matter of fact, I'll make sure I start leaving my email address, but I definitely have my social media handles in the description as well. Of course, I have my links so you can get my books and my merch. All right. So definitely we're trying to continue to grow. So definitely like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, man, if you haven't. Okay. And I appreciate you. I'm gonna make it emphasis to start saying that every video because I truly do appreciate y'all, because even though I'm putting in work into making these videos, I think it's well worth it if people can get a different perspective, some understanding, some new knowledge. Hey, I'm gonna continue bringing that to you. Okay. Man, as always, I am you, you are me. Love always, love eternal. And you know what? You know the worst thing you can do is lie to yourself, right? All right. But I think I made that case, baby. All right. Hey, one love. Deuce.